Hello my dear students, here's again your computer Wunsam, and today I will show you everything about the so-called cascading style sheets. Cascading style sheets are short CSS, and we are using this language to style a web page. These style sheets are necessary to describe HTML elements which are displayed on screen, paper, any other media, and so on and so forth. And the amazing thing about style sheets is that they keep the format for every single website the same. So they save a lot of work because it can control the layout of multiple web pages all at once. Usually we have already learned about the style sheets, or at least the style attribute. It is exactly the same here like the body style or the style attribute for every other thing we have used beforehand. This body style, for instance, is backward image URL. This means this is the background image and the background size cover. This is the basic style for this only website. However, we can use a single file to create the style sheet for every single website we have. How do we do this? At first, we need to go to our folders. There we need to create a new folder called Stylesheets. So new folder, and then we call it CSS or style sheets. This is usually good practice to keep your style sheets in a separate folder than the images or the sites. Okay, now we are in the CSS folder. What we need to do now is here create a new file called new, and then any format, like for instance a text document, and then we can call it stylesheet CSS. Or on the other hand, we can create it via Notepad by pressing here new. And then we can choose a simple style sheet just for testing purposes. Let's say P, open brackets, and close brackets. And then save it at first. And then we save it here in CSS. It is not a normal text file. It is a CSS file. We call it stylesheet.css. And then save it. And as you can see, there's the stylesheet.css. For the moment, however, nothing is displayed in our stylesheet.css because we didn't take any changes we had beforehand. How do we do this then? Okay, here we have the index.html. Here we have, for instance, some attributes which we can use. Here we have, for instance, ahref. Let's use the ahref, in fact. We can do it like this, writing down a, no, only a, open bracket, close bracket, and then we can say color, and then red. Okay, now we have saved this style sheet. There's this link here with, here's a link to wefreeschools.com, absolute link to Jabberwocky. If we go now here and use the specific tag to connect the style sheet in here, then we have the specific styles for the websites here beforehand, and can take them for any other website we want to have. To do this, we need to write down link, well stands for relative, or relation in this case, and then we need to write down style sheet. This defines this thing here as a style sheet, and then like the ahref, we need a hyperlink reference to our stylesheet.css. To get into stylesheet from index, we have to go here. Here's the index file, and we have to go to CSS in here. So we need to write down css/stylesheet.css. Ideally, you do this with these quotation marks, because it looks a little bit more formative in this case. Now, as you can see, I have refreshed the site, I have saved it, and now the links are red. This is because we have used the A attribute, which is for the hyperlinks, in our style sheets, and said that they should be red. The thing is, we use the specific HTML tag, in this case A, and give it a specific formatting. We can, for instance, say font size 25 pixel, and then as you can see, it changes the size of the font, but only for the hyperlinks. This is the idea behind this CSS, that it changes only the values of the specific tag we are using. Here we have A, up here we have P. What we can do is say, for instance, color, blue. We can say that this is blue. And as you can see, the text will be shown is now blue. The reason for this is that we have here this P, the text will be shown, P. This means that everything in this P tag is now blue. We can use any single tag for this. Let's see, for instance, H1. We can say, for instance, that the H1 tag should change a little bit. Let's say color yellow, and let's say font size 250 pixels. Now it will be gigantic. Here is the blah, or at least the BLA, and it is yellow. If we say 50 pixel, then it's in fact smaller, but it's still visible. The idea behind all of these style sheets is that you can change one single thing and change it for every single website. If you have 20 or 30 websites, you can use style sheets so easily so that you can use them for every single one and everyone is changed. In fact, I can show it also on the Jabberwocky site. I need again this link. This link is for the linkage of the style sheet. And just put it in here. Link, well, style sheet, href. However, in this case, the Jabberwocky is in the sites folder. That's why I need these 3 points. Point slash goes one folder outside. This is then here the folder ENG. And after this, it looks for the folder CSS, which is here. And then it goes to stylesheet.css. Now let's see what happens if I go to the Jabberwocky. I didn't change anything beforehand. All of the formattings have already been taken by the CSS file, and the HTML file has realized, okay, there's a CSS file in there, I can use all of these formattings here. If I change, for instance, the color from yellow to a hexadecimal color of red, you can see that it becomes red. This is the amazing thing about all of these style sheets. They can be used for anything we want. And in fact, we can even use the style sheets by copying all of the style here. Here we have, for instance, the Jabberwocky with style color white in the body. And in index, we have this body style, which we can also use. Background image Karl Heinz, our little teddy bear. And we can just copy this, add a body, open brackets, close brackets, background image and background size, comma. Now here it is the same, nothing has changed at all. However, if I go to the Jabberwocky, then there should be a little bit of a change in fact. I see why it doesn't work, because it looks for the Jabberwocky in the wrong folder. In this case, it looks either for background image images Karl Heinz div or point slash images Karl Heinz GIF. Then this works, and this also works too. There's a little bit of a problem here because we have two background image paths. And so if you have an image you are using for our background or for your background, you need to make sure that you write down every single path, because if the first one doesn't exist, like in the case of the Jabberwocky, then it looks for the second one. And in the case of this one, if the first one does exist, then it takes this. If the second one doesn't exist, it only takes the first one. Using these cascading style sheets or short CSS are amazing. We can do everything we want, make our website so much easier, and make specific information for our little websites. Most of the websites are in fact based on these HTML files. What we can see, for instance, if we have a div element, div elements are so-called diverse elements. These are very specific elements that have their own rule set. This is the final thing I want to show you. The div element, I can put it anywhere I want. For instance, here in the body, I can say div id equals, and then call it a middle part. Now I can use this div id in this middle part, in this case, only for the website to do the specific formatting only for everything which is in there with the name middle part. Usually I also need to close the div. Okay. And now, as you can see, there is this little connection here in div ID / div ID, if I made it correctly. Div ID, perfect. Okay. Oops. Now the usual ID behind this div is in fact that we can use it, for instance, for navigation purposes. What we can do is add here again this hashtag middle part. If we have a div, then we need to make sure that we write down this hashtag, or else it isn't identifiable. And then now we can choose what we write down here. For instance, font style Verdana. Then we can change it in this case to. Then we can change everything we want here. Here we have, for instance, the font size Verdana, font style Verdana. Sorry, font family Verdana. As you can see, this here stayed the same because this is the font family Arial, and this other one is different from this because it's the font family Verdana. Just for trial, you can see it also works for the wingdings, and here in this case only for the usual formatting, because the Jabberwocky.html has in this style already this font family Arial. So if there is a style outside and inside, then it always uses the style inside, except if the specific attribute isn't changed. So for instance, text align justify, color yellow, and so on and so forth. This all are defined in this P, however the rest isn't. As you can see, it is written in wingdings. I'll put it back to Times New Roman, for instance. Let's try it like this. And now it looks again like beforehand. So, as you can see, the div attribute also works for these CSS files, and the div attribute is necessary to make most of the website working, in fact. This is everything I wanted to show you about style sheets, and I can't wait to see your beautiful websites which you are creating. Your Computer Wunsan.